Hey guys, Yips here coming up with another video, and today I want to talk a little bit about Outlaw Rogue going into Dragonflight Mythic Plus. This spec is very complicated, so hopefully I can do it justice with making a guide for it moving into the new expansion. I'll be sharing with you my favorite build for Mythic Plus, talking a little bit about why I like it so much, rotational things, and role logic. So, this is the build. It's a Echoing Reprimand Keep It Rolling build. The notables that you have on the Outlaw side are Fan the Hammer, Green Skins, Keep It Rolling, Improve Adrenaline Rush, Count the Odds, and Loaded Dice. These are the things you're going to be hyper-focused on rotationally. On the Rogue side of the tree, we get Leeching Poison, you can pick up Entropic or Mind Numbing, you can pick up Cheat Death, you can pick up almost any utility skill that you want on this tree relatively easily, which is why I like it so much. It sims very high, it performs very well, you get as much utility as you want, as well as you're playing a build that gets lots of rolls, gets lots of procs, and is very fluid. So this is my favorite build in Mythic Plus. It flows the best for me. I really enjoy it. So before we get into rotational stuff, let's talk a little bit about the row logic, and then I'll show you guys some examples. So here are the rolls. And the way the three different tiers work is for S tier, you're never going to overwrite them. For A tier, if you get a loaded dice proc, you're going to roll. And then for F tier, you're going to always roll. So these are the specific tiers that you have for what you're going to be doing when you get specific rolls as Outlaw Rogue. And to simplify it a little bit and make it more clear, notice that if you ever have Broadside or True Bearing, the top buff in S tier, if you ever roll one of those two, you're either in A tier with them being single buffs, or if you ever roll them plus another, you're immediately in S tier. You're never going to overwrite it. So if you have Broadside or if you have True Bearing, be prepared to spend a lot of finishers, generate a lot of combo points, and get your cooldowns back. But also you're never going to have to overwrite them with a roll, which saves you a lot of GCDs. So keep that in mind. Those buffs are the best. Your other buffs in A tier that you're going to only roll if you get a loaded dice are Skull and Crossbones +1. That's not True Bearing or loaded dice, or Ruthless Precision +1. That's not, again, True Bearing or Broadside. So keep that in mind. Skull and Crossbones +1, Ruthless Precision +1. That's not one of those two. Is going to also be A tier. And then for F tier, we have Single Skull, Single Ruthless, and Buried Treasure and Grand Melee. Those buffs are just bad. You don't want them. You want to always roll them off whenever you get your roll back. So keep that in mind. This is the roll logic, and we're going to treat Count the Odds procs. So if you can look here, Count the Odds. We're going to treat any proc we get from Count the Odds as if we had that buff for real. So if I had, for example, here, Buried Treasure, and I'm fighting the target dummy, and I don't have my roll up, and I'm just playing, and I end up getting a proc, hopefully I get one here relatively quickly, like this, I'm going to treat this as if now, as that Skull and Crossbones was active, as I was in A tier, instead of being in F tier, okay? As soon as that buff fades, you're immediately going to want to hit your roll the dice as soon as it's back active to get a 2 buff. And here I happen to get True Bearing plus Grand Melee. I'm now in S tier. I don't roll this off. So keep that in mind. Count the odds procs as you get them. Treat it like you're in that tier as they're active. And when they fall off, just try to remember where you are on that sort of a list. And really, it just is a thing that you have to practice. It's something that you want to sit down, you want to hit a dummy, you want to play, you want to record yourself, you want to watch, you want to make mistakes, you want to learn, and it will be something that you get better at over time. Now, the way that this build is going to play, I'm going to briefly bring up the rolls again, is you're playing a lot around your Keep It Rolling. Keep It Rolling will extend any buff that you have for an additional 30 seconds. So if your buff has 20 seconds left on it, it will go to 50. Okay, so obviously if you get a 5 or 6 buff, you're going to be extremely happy because you're going to be able to extend that all the way to a minute if you have Keep It Rolling active. It's very, very good. The way you want to think when you have these buffs are, if I'm in S tier, I'm going to be generating either more combo points or more CDR than normal, so I'm going to be getting things like Adrenaline Rush back faster, Vanish back faster, things that make my rotation flow more smoothly back. If I'm in A tier, a similar thing is going to happen, except it's going to be slightly worse than S tier, and then F tier, you can expect your resources to be a little bit scarce. So you want to be aware of your resource generation as Outlaw Rogue at all times. You want to note what sort of tier you're in, and then depending on that tier, what sort of resources you're going to be generating. Very, very important as Outlaw to be able to have an idea and predict what's going to be happening instead of reacting to it. So, as an example, let me refresh my poisons here. When I roll, here I have a skull and crossbones. This means that whenever I press Sinister Strike, I'm going to be expecting to generate pistol shot procs at a more frequent rate. Okay? So that means every single time that I press Sinister Strike, I am ready to get a pistol shot proc. But this is an F tier buff, meaning I want to re-roll it. And here I happen to get an S tier one with my loaded dice. And now that I have Skull and Crossbones and True Bearing, I want to know and think in my head, my cooldowns are coming back faster, and I'm generating pistol shot procs almost every time I press Sinister Strike. And you can see how much faster not only my cooldowns are coming back, but I'm also generating a lot more combo points. Okay? And I don't want to overwrite this until it's gone. I want to keep it going because it's one of those S tier buffs. And then as it's fading, I'm going to re-roll again, and I'm back in S tier. This build has a lot of S tier buffs, so whenever you have loaded dice from your Adrenaline Rush, generally speaking, you're going to get a very good roll, which is why the build is consistent, and I like it a lot. Okay? So here I got Broadside plus Ruthless Precision. This means I'm going to be generating more combo points than normal. I'm spending more finishers than normal. My cooldowns are going to be coming back quickly. And just to note with Broadside, generally it's okay to spend combo points when you're at 6 instead of at 7. So keep that in mind with your rolls. Always try to be thinking about what the roll means, not just whether it's good or not. Does it mean I'm getting my cooldowns back? Does it mean I'm generating procs? And how that affects your gameplay. So I know it's a little complicated, but just play with it, and you'll notice these things start to happen. I promise you, if you get a Sinister Strike, Skull and Crossbones proc, and a True Bearing proc, and you're not actively thinking, okay, I'm generating pistol shot procs, I'm generating increased CDR, you're not going to notice when your abilities are coming back, and as you're generating those procs as much, and you're not going to be able to preempt what's going to happen, as if you weren't thinking about it. Okay? So try to have a large presence of mind of the buffs that you have active. Okay? That's all I'll get into about buffs. No more talking about buffs. Let's get into the rotation. So with this build in Mythic Plus, generally at the start of the dungeon, you'll have all your cooldowns active, and a lot of the time on a lot of pulls, you'll have a lot of things either coming up very briefly into the pull or going into the pull. And since Adrenaline Rush, we get this talent Improved Adrenaline Rush combined with loaded dice, if we open with Adrenaline Rush before the pull starts, it allows us to get a full slice and dice if we don't have one. It also allows us to get a guaranteed 2 buff. So when we're opening on our pack, our goal is spend our Adrenaline Rush, spend our loaded dice before the pack is pulled, get a slice and dice active before the pack is pulled, and then once we get in on the pack, we'll open with an ambush, we'll press Echoing Reprimand, and then we'll try to get a Between the Eyes active. So to see what that looks like, I'll press my Adrenaline Rush, which will give me full combo points, as well as the loaded dice proc. I'll press Slice and Dice, roll before combat. I'll know which buffs I have. Okay, I have Sinister Strike, getting more Sinister Strike procs, getting more combo points, getting more pistol shot procs. Okay. I'll open with a ambush into an Echoing Reprimand Between the Eyes. This sets me up because it gives me a Greenskins. It gives me a lot of abilities to spend low combo points for max point finishers. That's what Echoing Reprimand does. I can spend these 2 combo points when it's lit up red in order to spend as if I spent a 7 combo point one. So I've set myself up ready to spam a lot of dispatches and get a lot of CDR back. That's always what you want to be thinking as Outlaw Rogue. How can I maximize my CDR? How can I get my cooldowns back as fast as possible in order to spend them again, in order to get them back? Because your cooldowns really are what make you do a lot of damage as an Outlaw Rogue. So again, the opener, Adrenaline Rush, Slice and Dice, Ambush, Echoing Reprimand into a BTE. BTE increases your critical strike chance on the target. It also gives you green skins. You want to press it on cooldown. If you don't have Adrenaline Rush active and you don't have Slice active, just open with an ambush and then press Slice. It's fine. And make sure you roll before you get into combat. Here I also happen to get a 2 buff. That was just lucky. But keep that in mind. If you don't have AR up, just open with an ambush into a Slice. If you have Slice active, just start generating combo points. As Outlaw, we always aim to spend max combo points unless we have Broadside, in which case you can spend 6. So if you get that Broadside buff, you can spend less, you can spend 6. Otherwise, try to make sure that you're spending max combo points. Okay? So, I'm going to go for an opener here where I don't have anything active. I'm going to wait for my Roll the Bones to come up. I have Slice and Dice. So same sort of logic happens when I don't have AR. I'll roll, ambush, Echoing Reprimand, and then I'll hit my Between the Eyes. After I've done that, like I said, my goal is to spend as many finishers as efficiently as possible. That's my entire goal. Regardless of any cooldowns, I want to be spending as many finishers as efficiently as possible while keeping everything on cooldown. So how is that going to look once we're in combat? So once I do my opener, once I have my Roll the Bones with Adrenaline Rush, I have my Slice, I've opened with my ambush, I've hit my Between the Eyes, what am I looking to do? I build combo points and I spend them. I build them with Sinister Strike and with Pistol Shot. And the way that the logic works for Sinister Strike and Pistol Shot is whenever I have these 3 opportunity procs, I get that from having Fan the Hammer, I want to spend them if I have less than 3 combo points or I have 6 stacks of the buff. So if I'm at 4 combo points with 6 stacks of the buff, I will spend them. If I'm at 3 combo points with 3 stacks of the buff, I will spend them. As an example. That means that when I have 6 stacks, I'm no longer pressing Sinister Strike. When I have 3 stacks, I'm spending it when I'm on low combo points. It's not very complicated if I open on this target dummy here, as I do the normal. As I generate combo points, I'm expecting to get these Pistol Shot procs every time I press Sinister Strike, and whenever I'm low on combo points, I will spend those Pistol Shot procs. And every time you spend those Pistol Shot procs, it will bring you to enough combo points to where you hit a finisher. That means that after you press Pistol Shot, be ready to hit Dispatch or Between the Eyes. And that's sort of a flow you want to get into. And a lot of abilities in Outlaw Rogue have this sort of a flow. So as I open here, I'm not at low combo points, so I'll use Sinister Strike. I press my Pistol Shot, I go to full, I press my Pistol Shot, I go to full, and after every single time I do that, I hit a spender. Okay? Pistol Shot, go to full, hit a spender. And keep playing like that. Okay? Very, very simple. You only have 2 generators as Outlaw Rogue, Sinister Strike and Pistol Shot, aside from your cooldown Echoing Reprimand. After you hit Sinister Strike, get ready for those Pistol Shot procs. I promise you they're coming. They happen very frequently. Just be ready to spend them properly. Okay? So after we open, we have our BTE up. We're looking to generate as many combo points and spend as many as we can to get our cooldowns back. So how do we work in our cooldowns? How do we work in things like Adrenaline Rush and Keep It Rolling as we're going through our rotation? Once we have that BTE up, once we've generated and spending our combo points, how do we work in Keep It Rolling and improved Adrenaline Rush? With Keep It Rolling, we're going to want the S tier buffs. We're going to want Broadside, and we're going to want True Bearing. We're going to want Skull and Crossbones, and we're going to want Ruthless Precision. Those are the best buffs. We do not care about Buried Treasure, and we do not care about Grand Melee. Those 4 buffs, if we can so happen to get 3 of those 4, we're going to press Keep It Rolling. And the reason that those buffs that I have listed are S tier is because it's going to more often lead us into situations where we can use Keep It Rolling. So as I open here, I'm going to get an S tier buff. And I'm going to open like I've been talking about, get my ability up here. And what I'm trying to do is as I spend my spenders, is I'm going to be looking at the procs I get from the Count the Odds. Every time I press a Dispatch, I'm going to be ready So see there, I pressed the dispatch, I got a Ruthless Precision buff, and earlier I pressed the dispatch and I got a True Bearing buff. That's 3 of the 4. I will press my Keep It Rolling. And when you're in Keep It Rolling, you just take a load off and spam Sinister Strike, use your pistol shots properly, and spend your finishers as you get them. Okay? And I'm going to be ignoring pressing things like Adrenaline Rush during my rotation for now. But after you press your Keep It Rolling, what you're looking to do is spend as many combo points as you can to generate as many finishers as you can to get CDR back. The reason you want to get your CDR back is because you want to get your Keep It Rolling again, so you can have that situation happen again. Okay? So that's the very basic essence of the rotation, is you're looking for those procs from Count the Odds after you get a good roll in order to extend with Keep It Rolling. Now what do we do about Vanish and Adrenaline Rush as we're doing our rotation? Those are our other main cooldowns aside from Keep It Rolling. You want to be using your Adrenaline Rush outside of the opener as a tool to not only generate energy, but also as a combo point spender. So I'm going to open here without hitting Adrenaline Rush and show you what I mean. So as I'm fighting and generating combo points to spend my Between the Eyes and my dispatches, as soon as my Adrenaline Rush is off cooldown and I'm on low combo points, I'm going to hit it to use a finisher. And I want to be using it on cooldown because it comes back so quickly. It allows me to use a lot more Sinister Strikes during its duration, which is excellent for combo point generation. And I'm just hitting my buttons mindlessly here. Don't think about my rotation. And then when it ends, it puts me back at full combo points. So it generates me 14 combo points in a 20-second window. It's extremely powerful for spending a lot of finishers quickly and getting a lot of CDR back quickly. So you want to be using it on cooldown outside of your opener. And in terms of Vanish, the benefits of Vanish are that when you Vanish and hit Dispatch, and you're going to always want to be using Vanish to Dispatch at preferably high combo points, it's going to double the chance that you get a Count the Odds proc, which gives you an additional roll, and it's going to double the duration. The reason that doubling the duration is almost more important than doubling the chance is because it allows you to get additional procs during that increased duration for your Keep It Rolling. So if I Vanish and Dispatch and get another good roll, I can spend the next 10 seconds trying to farm up another good roll from Count the Odds. Whereas if I didn't Vanish, I would only have 5 seconds to do so. And I would also have a lower chance of getting it. So Vanish and Adrenaline Rush are abilities we want to be using on cooldown while we are in combat. So I'm going to do an opener here and sort of do a mock scenario of what it would look like when I'm in combat. So I open with Skull and Crossbone. I'm expecting a lot of combo points from the pistol shots. I have my Adrenaline Rush active. I'm going to hit it. I have Vanish active. I'm going to Vanish Dispatch. And now I'm just spending points like crazy until my roll is back. I'm on an F tier, and I have loaded dice. I want to roll. Now I'm in S tier. So what I'm looking for now that I'm in S tier is I'm trying to proc Count the Odds by spending as many finishers as I can until I have 3 of the 4. Look, I have 3 of the 4. Boom! We hit our Keep It Rolling. And now I have a way of generating a lot of combo points through Skull and Crossbones. I will get a lot of CDR back from my True Bearing, and I'm dealing increased damage with the crit buff. And like I said, every single time that AR comes back, you want to be using it to generate yourself a lot of combo points. Okay? Very, very, very important to use it pretty well on cooldown. And my Keep It Rolling has fell off for my Ruthless Precision buff, which is excellent. Got really good use out of that. Got a lot of CDR back from that Keep It Rolling. And now the Skull and Crossbones buff is about to fade. And when it does, I will have a loaded dice ready for it. So my AR just came back. I want to spend my old loaded dice. And then I want to use AR after I do that. But I want to spend that loaded dice right away. And there's some little tricks and tidbits that I want to talk about with that extra loaded dice that I got there, that you guys saw at the end of my Keep It Rolling. I'll just give you guys some little tips and tricks of what you can do with that. But afterwards, all I'm doing is I'm spending with Sinister Strike until either I hit one of my points for Echoing Reprimand, which gives me supercharged combo points. Here, for example, that's a full finisher. And as I get pistol shot procs, I'm making sure I'm on low combo points before I spend them. And hey, Keep It Rolling's already back. Even though it says it's a 7-minute cooldown, it comes back very quickly. So this is the sort of logic I'm playing with as I go. If I have a bad buff, I'm looking to re-roll it as quickly as possible. As soon as I get a good buff, or a buff I can think I can proc a lot of, I'm looking at that count the odds and trying to get a good Keep It Rolling. Now, it can happen that you get a bad buff and you get enough count the odds to where it's worth hitting Keep It Rolling. It's very rare, so I would just stay alert as you get good buffs in order to use Keep It Rolling. Now, the trick that I want to talk about with loaded dice is you can get yourself in a situation sometimes where, let's see if I can make it happen here. Try to farm myself a True Bearing is the most important one that I need. I don't get it. Okay, I'm going to extend here. So I'm going to spend until my buff is gone. So I just hit Keep It Rolling, and I have these buffs for a long period of time. You see I have Skull and Crossbones for 37 more seconds, and which I called a S tier buff, a very, very good buff. Now, if I had rolled True Bearing, my AR would have already been back and I would have spent it on combo points. Unfortunately, it wasn't. But what can end up happening is, if you end up rolling a True Bearing while you hit your Keep It Rolling, what you can do is at the end of the majority of your buffs, and you just have the 2 that you started with before you hit Keep It Rolling, in this case they were these 2, you can actually hit a roll, and it will give you either a few new buffs or extend that old roll. And if you roll True Bearing, you'll actually get your AR back in time to where you can immediately AR after you spend it again. So I'm going to go over that one more time because it's a little confusing. So once you press Keep It Rolling on all of your good buffs, you're going to be generating a lot of combo points. If one of those Keep It Rolling buffs that you extended was True Bearing, you're going to generate 2 adrenaline rushes before your buffs fade, which means you're going to have an excess loaded dice because you do not want to overwrite those buffs from Keep It Rolling. What you can do with the first loaded dice before you get your second one is, as you are down to your last 2 buffs from your Keep It Rolling, is you can press it and it will either give you 2 new buffs along with the old ones that you have, giving you a 4 buff. It can give you an additional new buff and extend your old ones, or it can just extend your old ones. It does some funky interaction, but what it allows you to do is not waste a proc. Because I told you don't want to roll over good buffs. Well, if you have Keep It Rolling and you have your last 2 buffs, those are good buffs, you don't want to overwrite them. But if you have a loaded dice and you've pressed Keep It Rolling, you can press your roll again and it won't, it at least won't get rid of those buffs. It will either extend them or give you 2 additional ones. Okay? So let's see if I can showcase that one more time. Let me farm back my Keep It Rolling here, and I can showcase what I mean by that one more time. So this is where a little bit of sort of top play comes into hand for Outlaw, where you'll see some things making a big difference on things like logs and whatnot. So here, okay, I have my Keep It Rolling back. I'm not going to do anything fancy with it. I just want to get it active. Okay, so I'm just going to press it on these buffs here because I don't care. It's just for show. So I'm going to press it here. And then I'm going to show you guys what happens once I get my Adrenaline Rush back. So once my Adrenaline Rush is back, I will get a loaded dice proc. Okay? So my Adrenaline Rush is back. I get a loaded dice proc. And what I can do is, just before my next AR would come back, if I rolled True Bearing here, I would have been able to farm another AR. I can hit my roll, and it will either do like it did here and extend these, or it will give me 2 additional new buffs, which is just awesome, right? Like, it's good to get those new buffs. And then with those new buffs, you can make a decision on what to do with your next loaded dice, which you have banked up for the next 40 seconds. So that's a little trick that you can do with Outlaw Rogue with this Keep It Rolling, is you can use loaded dice during your Keep It Rolling to get even more buffs at the end of it. And the situations where you're going to want to do that is when you have True Bearing and you're able to generate 2 adrenaline rushes during one keep it rolling. Okay, so briefly to recap everything that I touched on. In the opener, we want to get up slice and dice, and we want to maintain that permanently. As we open, we're usually going to be opening with ambush. However, if you already have slice and dice active and you've pressed adrenaline rush and you have combo points, you can open with dispatch instead. It's a little bit more efficient. It gives you, it's just cheaper. So when you open, you want to pre-roll, open. You would echoing if you weren't for a combo point, so I'll press it between the eyes, and then you're just spamming Sinister Strike till you're at full combo points, or you're within this echoing reprimand window. And as you get pistol shot procs, make sure to spend them when you're on low combo points. Okay? Very, very simple. And then with our cooldowns, we just want to be using them on CD. We want to use our Adrenaline Rush on CD, and we want to use our Vanish on CD in order to generate ourselves combo points in which we can use to spend on more cooldowns. Alright, great. So I'll do one sort of full rotation here with every cooldown up, and then we'll call it a video, and hopefully this has helped you guys out a little bit. I unfortunately didn't get to touch on, I think, absolutely everything with Outlaw, as there's quite a bit to go through for the spec. But I'll go through a typical AoE situation that I'll have as a spec for a little bit and sort of talk about it as I go. I won't be 100% precise because I'll be thinking a lot as I go through the rotation, as it's quite intensive, but I will do my best. So as I open, I'm going to open, roll, and open with a dispatch, and immediately Blade Flurry. Roll, dispatch, Blade Flurry, apply my BTE, and now I'm generating combo points. And if I hit my window with Echoing Reprimand, I will send it. As I get pistol shot procs, I will send them, use Vanish on CD, and try to spend BTE on CD as well. So right now, I have a 2 buff. This is a buff worth keep it rolling because I have 3 of the 4 that I talked about earlier. Spending BTE on cooldown. And now I'm focused on spending a lot of combo points. And this might be a situation where I'm able to farm back 2 adrenaline rushes before it's finished. So here's my first adrenaline rush, Vanish on CD. And see how many finishers I'm able to spend because of this keep it rolling and the good buff. It's very, very nice. And you won't always be able to get this when you have your keep it rolling active. You won't always be able to do this sort of a situation. So my adrenaline rush unfortunately isn't going to come back in time. I didn't get it early enough, but that's fine. I have my loaded dice and I'll spend it and I'll get an S tier buff. And I won't roll off this. And so I'm noting that my adrenaline rush is about to come back. My adrenaline rush is back. I'm going to want to use it. Full combo points, spend them. And looking to use my supercharged power points as they come. Combo points as they come. Alright. This is how you play Outlaw with the current build. Get a Vanish here. I have loaded dice. Spend it. Boom. Oh, we're S tier again. There's a lot of S tier buffs. And I have 3 of the important ones. I'll use keep it rolling on them. And this will definitely be a scenario that I talked about earlier where I will generate an additional AR before my loaded dice proc fades. So I'll want to use it during my keep it rolling. If I wasn't lagging, that would be great. PTR is, or beta is a little bit laggy, which is unfortunate, but you'll see my 2 initial buff, my Skull and Crossbones and my True Bearing, are not going to fade before my adrenaline is back. So I'll roll here and I'll actually refresh them, and then I'll hit AR again. And this way, I've refreshed 2 good buffs, or I could have gotten 2 new ones, as well as having them active still, and I still have a loaded dice. And that's the situation that I was talking about that can be so crucial as this spec to pay attention to. And it happens when you get a True Bearing during your keep it rolling. So look for that when you're playing. And other than that, like I said, just spending finishers, playing the game. Okay, use things on CD. And oftentimes with this build, you'll have enough good rolls to where you don't really need to worry too much about the roll logic. However, sometimes you do get a little unlucky, which is unfortunate. So that's how the build plays. Right now I'm doing a lot of damage to 2 targets, 70k plus. Pretty good. Alright, so this is the build. Hopefully I covered everything that would be relatively interesting with the build. Hopefully it makes sense. I'll include a link to the build input below. And yeah, thanks for watching. Hopefully it helps you guys and give you guys some idea on how to play Outlaw Rogue in this new patch. Yeah, thanks for watching. See ya.